Hello and welcome to All Stats Aren't We, a podcast in which Leeds fans cast their combined eye over goings on at Ellen Road, giving scrutiny to the underlying statistics and tactical footings at work at Leeds United. I'm Adam Elliott, the draft excluder of the podcast, utter woke nonsense. And I'm joined today by the late equalising goal of the podcast, painful and undeserved in equal measure. It's Martin Riley. Martin, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm all right. Bit of a deflating end to yesterday's game, but I'm over it now. It's fine. I've had a good day. I've had pretty much another chill day, nice Sunday. Just not really done a whole lot. Just lazed around, which has been quite nice. And I've had a nice tea. I had some chicken kebabs with potato skins, with cheese and jalapeno potato skins, which were quite good. So yeah, and some coleslaw with that as well. So it was quite nice tea. How about you, mate?
Very, very, very nice. Very good tea there. Maybe we should record on Sundays more because I did a homemade curry. It was like I'd say most akin to a jalfrezi probably, and it was really good. And I haven't made one in a while. We've done some like Thai curry stuff here and there, whatever else, but not had a proper curry that we made ourselves for a while. So I really enjoyed that. So yeah, I'm full of food. I've had a decent Sunday. Busy, doing a lot of different little things on my day off, but I've got plenty of holiday on the horizon. I realised today, so I'm pretty happy actually. I got loads of time off over Christmas and a bit of time coming off over October as well. So very happy about that. Anyway, yeah, it was a game yesterday. Certainly, still unbeaten at Ellen Road, over a year now, which is nice. But we probably should dissect it a bit further. We don't actually have any news today because there's not much going on at the moment, and I don't think there are any injury issues. The only one I noticed a little bit of, which you might have, was Okafor seemed a little bit, I'd say, sore when he went off. He looked a little bit like grimacing a bit, but it's probably nothing.
I think he'd just gone on the run at first. When I first looked, I thought maybe he had, because Harrison seemed to get ready pretty quickly. But I don't think he had. He had done some pretty large runs like not long before he'd gone off. So I think maybe he just had a long busting run, and he does do a lot of running in the game. So I think he's probably just tired. So I'm hoping that he's not picked up an injury and that just was a planned substitution, because it's around about the usual time when Farker will make his subs for wingers, so it's nothing that we're not used to. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed that it was nothing and he's just going off, because that's when he was going to come off.
Yeah, the winger sub is the earliest of the subs, as we've noticed. I hope you're right. It could be just that he's not, like, you've got to remember with Okafor, and I think fans have got to be a bit patient in some respects with him, because his body has not actually done a lot of full seasons recently, and we're probably expecting him to be one of our main players actually in any position. So, he's got to get up to speed a little bit, and he's not going to be quite at the levels of stamina of some of our players probably, and quite as levels of fitness. And yeah, I think he'll probably be lacking a bit of sharpness and match fitness still now, even though it's building. Same with other players, to be fair. I was surprised Calvert-Lewin lasted as long as he did, but fair play to him, because he did have a great game, and we'll probably come on to talk about that. So just a reminder before we get into this properly, to like and subscribe on YouTube, and to leave us reviews wherever else you're listening to this, on podcast players and Spotify and all the rest of it. It really does help us out and help us grow, and we're certainly hoping to do some more bonus stuff as well. International break, another one is coming very, very shortly after this. Is it after the Spurs game? I think it is. It's either after the Spurs or the Burnley game. Yeah, there you go. So wonderful. But yes, we'll get into the game summary now, shall we? Leeds approached the game in their usual 4-2-3-1 shape, with Bournemouth opting for the same. Both sides had spells of possession throughout the first half, with Bournemouth having more of the ball throughout the half in general. Inside the opening 20 minutes, Leeds had numerous chances to score, but weren't able to pull ahead, and it was actually Bournemouth who scored from a free kick, which snuck under the wall and to the side of the draft excluder, which was Brendan Aronson, and past Cardalo to make the score 1-0 in the 26th minute. Leeds kept pushing to score, and this told in the 36th minute, not long after, when a deflected Joe Rodon header went past George Petrovic to equalise the score, with nothing else really happening for the rest of the first half. The second half started off with Leeds having the better of the early exchanges, having good territory around Bournemouth's box and having a number of set pieces. And it was in the aftermath of a corner in which Leeds went ahead thanks to a lovely strike from Sean Longstaff, which clipped the inside of the post and into the back of the net, leaving Petrovic unmoved and the score 2-1 to Leeds in the 54th minute. Following the goal, the ball went between both sides, but with neither able to create any big chances. The ball eventually settled with Bournemouth, who had the majority of possession going into the final 15-20 minutes of the game. Leeds were largely able to keep Bournemouth at arm's length, though, but only small chances were accrued in that period for the Cherries. But just when Leeds thought they had seen the game out, Bournemouth were able to score when Eli Junior Krupi scored in the 93rd minute and the game ended 2-2. Martin, before I get into the stat stuff, am I right in saying that he's a FM wonder kid? Because I feel like I've seen people talk about him.
He is, and I've signed him before in FM24, and so he's a good player on FM, and he showed why that is, and I'm annoyed at Bournemouth for signing him because now I can't sign him for cheap.
They signed him a year ago, didn't they? And then they left him on loan there, and now he's back at 19 years old, first Premier League goal. Annoying for us. But yeah, I don't play FM. I did years ago, retired. Anyway, that's not important. In terms of the expected goals breakdown for this match and the stats in general, Leeds actually only had 41% of the ball in the end, but we had 1.84 XG to Bournemouth's 0.82. We had 19 shots to their 12, numerous on target with 8, 3 big chances as well, probably a couple of Calvert-Lewin ones in there. And yeah, overall, definitely were the better side in that respect. And we'll probably come on to talk about that, won't we? So let's get into this then. The game obviously ended 2-2. I've kind of teased this already, Martin, but do you think that this was a fair reflection of the game as a whole?
No, I think it's close to a fair reflection of the game. But I do think that we deserve to win this one. We created a lot more chances than what Bournemouth did. In the opening 15-20 minutes, we had 3 chances which we could have scored from, all fall into Calvert-Lewin. Of those 3, I think the second one was the best, and he was really unlucky to not score from that. Petrovic got down really nicely to save that.
Yeah, that was a great save.
Yeah, and the first one, that he could have done better with that one, but I don't think it was that big of a chance. The angle was quite tight, and but it was still a decent half chance. And then the third one, I do agree with you eventually that he could have brought it down. Yeah, after I've watched it a few more times, I do think that he rather than heading it when he was never going to really get any power on that because it was just floating in the air. He should maybe have tried to just chest it down, then hit it. He maybe might not have enough chance, but it's better of a chance than what was ended up making of it. And it absolutely was not a big chance with what he did with it. It should have been definitely, but it could have been. Yeah. A header from there with no power on the ball coming to you. The best you're going to do is get it on target with a moderate amount of power. It's very difficult to get the power and to place it as well. You can never do one or the other. So he did the best he could with the header, but yeah. Overall, I think we did a good job in this game, and we created quite a few chances. There was a few other moments which were generated, and even though one which we went ahead from, even though it was a smallish chance, there was chances around that as well. There's a blocked shot from Aronson from right in the middle of the box, which then led to Longstaff. Lovely strike, just caught it just nicely, and just Petrovic didn't have a chance with that. So I'm very happy that he's got off the mark for us so soon, just to show what he can offer, because I think a lot of fans were maybe saying, well, yeah, he does a good job defensively, but he's not going to do a whole lot else, is he? But that's not the case. He can be a goal threat, and he certainly showed it. So yeah, I'm not sure. What do you think about the game?
Yeah, I just want to talk about that Calvert-Lewin chance you were talking about a second ago, because in our group chat, just for listeners that don't know, I said I think he should chest it and shoot. Probably needed to chest it away from himself and the defender, so it probably would have been on his left foot, which would have made it a little bit more difficult as well, but probably better than the header. It was such a loopy ball from Aronson that I just felt like that was the obvious choice, and that was probably the biggest one, because if he does chest it and shoot, it probably is the one that has the most chance of going in. He is just unlucky with the one that Petrovic saves. I think that was actually a good effort for the kind of chance that it was, the way it came to him, and just a good save. But we were so unlucky not to have gone ahead with at least one of those. Like, he's now got the most XG in the team for any player. He's got 1.2, but he scored 1 goal, so that's okay. But like, I do think he's had enough chances in the games now to have maybe 2 goals, maybe 3, even pushing. Not including Chef Wednesday either. But yeah, like in just the general play of the game, like not just the first half with those chances. I do think we had the bigger ones, the better ones. Like you have to say, like is Semenyo's even a huge chance? Probably not. Krupi's is a great strike, to be fair, from the angle he was at, and the stage of the game it was a really really good finish from him, from a very young player as well. But I think Longstaff was such a. I don't even know what the XG was on that. There was such a low quality chance. It must have been, and like it's fine to get away with them, but like that's a bit of variance going our way. That one, even if other ones didn't go our way, so it kind of evens out. I think it played out as a 2-1 game, and we said this off air, didn't we? And I think that was probably right. 2-2. It feels harsh, and it feels like we've been hard done by. And like with the Fulham game going the way it was, that it makes it a bit more frustrating. Do I think we've played like great in both games, like really, really well? No, I'll probably come on to talk about that, but like pretty well. And we're competing in games home and away against, in my eyes, like Fulham and Bournemouth are going to be in the top 12, probably both of them. So these are pretty good sides. And so it's frustrating not to have got a bit more from both those, because that's, I wouldn't say scalps, but like it would have been a really, really strong points return if we managed to get a point against them and 3 against Bournemouth instead of what ended up being just 1. And I know people have sort of said like, oh well, we got a bit more against Everton maybe than we deserved, and I'm like, well, we edged that game too. So if you edge one game and you win, and you level in another game and you lose, and then you edge another game and you draw, I don't know if that's fair, personally. So I think we probably needed one of these games to go more our way, and I think we're a little unlucky that they didn't. But yeah, I was still pretty happy with the general kind of quality of how we did things, and that there were more chances created in this one, and we'll come on to talk about that in a bit more detail in a bit. But first of all, let's talk about how we actually limited Bournemouth, shall we, Martin? Because they had very little XG throughout the game, 0.82 in total. I don't know what Krupi's chance was at the end, but up to the 93rd minute, you're talking about a really solid defensive performance where we haven't really given them much at all. So how did we manage that in the end? How were we actually able to keep them at bay for so long?
I think one of the biggest things which we did well in this game was getting players back to defend and to quickly get our block back in place when we did when we were attacking, and that's one of the biggest ways which Bournemouth create things is in transition. We spoke about this a fair bit in the preview, and we knew that we had to get back quickly to defend these transitions, and we largely did a very good job at doing that. I think most of the chances they had were usually from either set pieces or low value chances from more settled play rather than transitional moments. So managing their counter-attacks was massive in getting a good game against Bournemouth, and I feel that's what we did well. We had our lines good between the back 4 and the midfield 4, well, midfield 5 really, and we just didn't give them space to get players around that. And yeah, largely the players did their job really well. Got interceptions. Any balls which came in the box were generally headed out. And other than when it wasn't for their equalising goal, that was unfortunate. But I think we did a really good job in this. In the first half, they only had 0.39 XG and no big chances. And the biggest chance they had was 0.06. In fact, 0.16, sorry, from their goal, which I disagree with intently. I don't know how a free kick from outside the box can ever be considered more than 0.1 XG. It's crazy to me, but that's another story. And then in the second half, their largest chance was, 0.11, and that was a Krupi chance before he scored. And the 85th minute was their biggest one. Krupi's actual goal was 0.08, but because of the finish, it went to 0.78.
Fair play to him.
So yeah, he definitely finished it very well. But the fact that was 0.08 and it was literally on the cusp of the 6-yard box, and it was half the value of the free kick which Semenyo scored from. How does that make any logical sense? It doesn't at all. I argue that free kick shouldn't be more than 0.07, something like that. That's just a crazy amount of extra. But anyway, I'm annoyed by it, you can tell. But yeah, we really did limit them to barely anything, and I think we can be proud of that because they're a strong side who have had a lot of goals so far this season in numerous games, and the fact that we've limited them, even though they did score twice, I think those were more. First one, we're gonna go into the goals later, so we might as well just but yeah, I felt we did good with limiting them throughout mainly.
Yeah, I'm going to use that word again. We're competing well in games, and it's really evident now. And it's not just like you say, getting back in numbers and getting into shape. Like even if our rest defense when we attack is a little bit iffy, I'll say. I think just in general, getting players back quickly from our attack is still pretty good. So we're never too open. Not in the recent games anyway. I feel like there were moments against Newcastle for sure, but I haven't really noticed it as much here and against Fulham. So that's been good. What I will say is I thought that Iraola's selection was interesting. He didn't quite go with what we predicted with John on the preview. He went with actually a lot of their, I would call them the pace and power front four. I mean, I knew they would with Evanilson and Semenyo, but even the other two, it wasn't like it was Brooks, Kleiber, and Tavernier who were on the bench. And they're three more, especially the first two, like Brooks and Kleiber, are far more technical players who can unlock the game a little bit more. It wasn't that, was it? It was, yeah, we'll play the other guys who are a lot more athletic, but not as technical.
They went with their best transition attackers in this one.
I think they expected what to happen is to be the chaos game that we described, but it didn't happen. So that actually meant that it kind of suited us in terms of how we defended. So yeah, that's why I think getting back into shape quickly, it just stifled them. They didn't have the room to use Semenyo's pace and power. Like very rarely did he cause us that many problems. Goodman's had a great game against him. And just in general, like I didn't feel like anyone was particularly scary in many moments because the game just didn't get opened up in the way. I mean, Adley, again, he's more of a kind of, from what I know, like a quick player. So yeah, I was very intrigued by that fact. You know, they had good subs there. Krupi used well. Brooks had a couple of nice moments when he came on as well. So they did have that bench to do that. But like in the first half, we were able to kind of play our game and play it in our way. So I thought that was part of it too. But definitely, like in terms of how we're coached, we're getting back into shape quickly. Just on Bournemouth as well, though. Like I think a few people have mentioned this. I saw Ethan mention it on a tweet, and John mentioned it in our group chat. Like they moved the ball quite well to get to our third, but it's just like you say, it was our compactness. We had bodies back straight away. So their general approach, Bournemouth, you could tell they were pretty well coached with Iraola, but as soon as it got towards the final third, it was like, where's the moment of magic, guys? What's happening? Like there wasn't a lot. And then if they were flinging balls into the box, Strauch and Rodon were dealing with them really, really well. And then we were picking up the pieces pretty quickly on the second balls too. And that 3-man midfield is really helpful when it comes to just general physicality and duels. And it's like almost the opposite of last season where there were a few championship games where maybe we were a bit soft in that area when Ampadu was out. But now it's like, well, you've got Longstaff who's a brick wall and Stack who's a brick wall and Ampadu who we know is hard as nails. So yeah, it works and it's effective. It's just a real shame because I love Altanaka and we can't play him much at the moment. Yeah, just on this point about Bournemouth and how, I guess, poorly they attacked. And on us in terms of how we attacked, because obviously this was one of our better games in that sense. We had our best non-penalty XG of the season, and I wanted to ask you, Martin, like, did you feel watching it that you're seeing repeatable ways of us generating chances now and scoring now, or is it just chaos bally? Is that what it is, and is that what we're going to be from now on for the rest of the season?
There is definitely some elements of more chaotic nature of the way we generate chances. We will always look to generate stuff from high turnovers, for instance. That is one thing that I think we are still actively looking to try. But I do think at the same time there is some repeatability in what we're doing. It's slowly getting to grips. I think the attackers in the side are getting used to each other's movements more and just being able to know where they're going to put the ball and where they need to be to receive the ball. And especially with the way that we look to use Calvert-Lewin in games like this when we're being pressed, having him as an out ball, and it just really helps to have that And I've noticed that whenever we do go to play the ball long, you generally see one player, usually Aronson, move closer to Calvert-Lewin from wherever he was, just so when Calvert-Lewin if he's able to bring the ball down, which most of the time he is able to, especially in this game because he was, as I put in the Discord, up against a group of teams who were all Adam Elliott height. Sorry, mate. But yeah, so he had an easy time in this game in being able to win that aerial battle all the time. And then when he brought it down, he was able to find Aronson, and then Aronson would quickly move it on to usually Jayden Bogle, who then could drive forward in space. And that's exactly what happened before the second goal. If you go back to watch it, just before the corner, which we got, he brought it down from an aerial ball. I think it was either Strauch or Goodmanson who played it forward, or it could have been Dowler. I forget who played it forward, but that doesn't matter. He brought it down, quickly laid it off to Aronson, who quickly laid it off to Bogle, who drove the ball forward. I think a ball was put into the box, and then it went out for a corner. And yeah, so I think those sort of actions are something we will look to build on. Going long to Calvert-Lewin, quick 1-2 elsewhere, and then get forward from there. Those kind of, I suppose that's more build up than chance creation, but it is definitely useful to have that outlet. And I just hope that we always have either Mitchell or Calvert-Lewin available to play in games, because I don't think we could do this kind of stuff with Joel Peru, for example.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, I think we probably have to accept now. I mean, last season there was actually Beckford and Bridges talked about this a little bit post-match. The classic was we had a lot of build up down the flanks, the fullbacks involved with the wingers. Eventually you'd get a winger or fullback free to either cross the ball in or cut the ball back. And that was one of the ways that we scored, especially towards the back end of the season. We were getting into our flow, and we saw loads of goals kind of like that back post run from Solomon that we were getting on the end of. Now, I just don't think we're ever going to see, we might see, like you just said, repeatable build-up patterns, and we are starting to see some things and an increase in some things. But I think in the final third, it is a little bit like after Calvert-Lewin's won, or not even won the first ball, at least, made it difficult for the defender to win the first ball, and then we build from there if we can pick up the pieces. I think it is just a bit of vibes, and that might be all right in some games. I think if we go behind loads and loads, I mean, we did go behind in this one and the last one, and we've managed to get 4 points from that. So that's decent. But generally speaking, I think if you go behind to a Man City or a Liverpool or one of those kind of teams, I just don't think it's going to happen like that. And I think that will be
what team can do that, though?
That's true.
If we can come back from 1-0 down against Fulham and Bournemouth, I'm happy. Those are the sides that I expect us to be able to do it for. If we can't do it against Liverpool and Man City and Arsenal and all that, then fine. If we can do it against the bottom half sides, I'm happy. So we've shown twice we can do that.
Yeah, we have shown twice that we can do that. So hopefully it does remain. But if anyone's expecting like a Bielsa, like paint a picture, exactly what the rotations are, which player is going to be on the ball, where his next pass is, I don't think I'm going to see much of that, really. I think it'll just be, Stacks collected the ball from Calvert-Lewin's, knockdown or him chesting the ball and then laying it off. Who are the runners and where are we going? And it's just going to be like vibes, kind of what we do. Maybe they'll work on it a little bit, but I just don't think it's going to be particularly repeatable. I haven't noticed anything so far where I've gone, oh yeah, that works. Probably maybe what you just said about Aronson collecting the ball and Bogle making the overlapping run, which we'll talk about again in a bit. So yeah, there isn't loads of that, but that's build up, like you say. It's not really chance creation. It's just like getting the ball up the pitch. And then the other way is, set pieces, sure. We've got a little bit more repeatability there. It's interesting already that Longstaff was put on corners. I knew he could take them. I'd seen him take a few for Newcastle. I think he played them in a few loans with like Blackpool and Kilmarnock. I can't remember though. Like I don't remember it, but I feel like I did see it at the time, like someone saying it. So yeah, he's had a bit of form for it, but it's just really interesting, isn't it? Stacks your 6'4" guy. You're off him now, mate. It's Longstaff's turn. He's 6'2", so. But it's fine. Like I do think there's an element of repeatability there. I think Rodon was getting first contact a lot. I think it was the most times he'd had shots in a game in his career. I think it was the most shots on target in a game in his career. So that's one thing, but really interesting player to be aiming at because of the other guys that we've got in there. But I'm not complaining because he did score. But yeah, generally that's basically it. I'm not seeing much else. But by the game, we're going to ask this question and see if there's anything that we're like, yeah, actually, that looks like it's something we are working on. But yeah, let's move on to the next one. Yeah, speaking of Chaos Ball, we had a question from Stivers on Blue Sky. We are active on Blue Sky. If you don't know about it, we do post some stuff on there. So come join us. He said, did chaos reign supreme? Because we talked about that on the preview with John, and said, how come and when were there periods of control by either team in the match, in your opinion, Martin?
So I don't think chaos really did reign supreme. I think Bournemouth will have wanted that to be the case because it plays into their hands, but I don't think it was, especially on the watch back. We weren't forcing the issue when they had the ball. We were happy for them to have the ball and to play it around the sides and the middle, and just making that sort of that triangle of doom that you sort of see around the box. And then when we attacked, we would get forward, but then we would quickly get back into our block and not look to. We wouldn't rush it when we had the ball as well. Like, we wouldn't always immediately look for the transition when we did win possession, because I think that's a lot of where Bournemouth shine, is where teams do quickly attack in transition, then they can quickly take it off. There were some moments where we were able to hit them in transition, but largely a lot of the stuff that we built chances from was more longer ball stuff, and that really took the sting out of it, and it meant that Bournemouth weren't able to use their biggest weapon, which is their press. There were some moments where we were able to play actually through their press. Some moments where they caused us problems with it, especially when Ampadu is firing balls back at Darlow a few times, like he did. I love the guy, but yeah,
God, it wasn't just him. There were a couple of others where they put it on his left foot. He's right-footed. Yeah. Play it to his right. I don't know if they thought it was Melier.
I just think it's one of those things when you pressed as well as Bournemouth do press you, these sort of things can happen, and you just look to quickly get rid of it, and you don't look to who you're passing it to. Oh, it's not Melier, he's right-footed.
Yeah.
So Darlow did well when those things happened. Though, he just got rid of it, which is what you'd expect him to do, because he had someone running down on him. But yeah, the question in hand, it didn't reign supreme, didn't chaos. There was definitely spells of calm and control for both sides, more so towards Bournemouth having more of the control of the game, especially going into the second half. There was definitely more concerted spells of possession for Bournemouth, and that isn't what they want. That's important. They don't want to have really long spells of possession, because that's not what Iraola Ball's about. He wants to destabilise his opponent, and when the way where we approached our out of possession, there were some moments where we were aggressive, but largely it was a pretty stable mid block, and we just kept things solid, didn't allow space, and that really stopped Bournemouth from enacting the game the way they wanted it to go.
Yeah, I don't really have a lot to add here. I think the only period that was a little bit chaotic was maybe at 1-1. And then we were pushing forward, and it then wasn't long after we scored that it switched a bit, and it just wasn't. It was a bit more mid-blocky in that period, and Goodmanson was attacking like noticeably more than he did at other periods of the game. Not that he didn't get forward quite a bit, but in that period at 1-1, he was getting forward a lot. But then the ball was just turning over a lot centrally, and like, bloody hell, I know they're a good pressing team, and we know that, but like some of our kind of more reliable players in terms of, especially in the Championship, in terms of their distribution, were really noticeably swappy here, like Strauch and Ampadu, and just really schoolboy stuff, man. Like Strauch especially, come on, man, you're better than that. We know you're better than that.
But again, it's his Bournemouth, one of the best out of possession sides in the league. They cause these problems to players who are normally assured with the ball at the feet. We haven't seen this again at any other side, because no other side have pressed us like Bournemouth have. Arsenal,
maybe
yes,
Arsenal.
They did.
Yeah,
I was just about to say, but Arsenal, but outside of the team that you'd expect to press us, they're the only ones who have actually done it and been really successful at doing it. But we did do good, considering that it is an Iraola side that we're up against, very well coached one as well.
Yeah, it definitely needs that layer of context to it being a pressy Iraola team for sure. But but I didn't expect it from strike. I guess like I was maybe half expecting, and I don't know if I said this on the preview, but like if they were gonna press us, they might have tried to funnel the ball more to Rodon. But actually, I thought Rodon was probably a bit more assured in possession, probably because I think he was smart with when he needed to play out and when he needed to go long, when he needed to offer for Darlow when there was a bit of panic. But they seem to press our left side more. That might have just had smarter pressers on their right. That might have just been all it was.
Yeah, I think
didn't really pick up on it I didn't really pick up on anything like that on the watch back, but it might have been that. But yeah, it wasn't a chaos game, to be honest. Like, as much as we said that it could transcend into being that on the preview, we did also say we weren't sure how Farke was going to play it. And feather in his cap, in my opinion, a little bit, that he's happy to have only 41% of the ball at home. He's happy to be adaptable is probably the best word, a bit more pragmatic in some games, like not, oh my gosh, I've got to play my way, and as stubborn as he was in the Championship. So like we had a bit of a rant, me and Hosty, after that Arsenal game, but certainly it's been a bit more what I expected. So happy with that. And like Josie picked up on Blue Sky as well, she replied with one thing. She said, from where I was sat, you could see Ampadu was telling the players to slow things down and calm things down every 5 minutes or so. So you could see they were purposely trying not to turn the game into a basketball match, a chaos match. So yeah, really liked that aspect from Ampadu as well, just being able to shout at players and calm things down. I do happen to think that he, like, as a player, just makes the team a bit better overall, and there are intangibles within that. It's not just him the player, it's like him the person as well. We do need a voice like that, and I'm not saying that other players can't do it as well. I think they can, but he's certainly one of our better players in that respect. So yeah. Yeah, how different is our approach to early in the season then, Martin? I kind of touched on this. Has Farke made wholesale changes, or are we just seeing some subtle differences in how we play? Or is it simply just having different player profiles in this 4-3-3 shape? Like, what is it? Or is it a combination of all of them? Talk to me.
I don't think it's largely different to early in the season, but the player profiles obviously have made certain changes to the way we would look to approach when teams press us, because we've got the outlet in Calvert-Lewin that we can just go to. So in this game in particular, we did go longer than normal, and the stats do back that up. You asked me to check these stats before, and our passes that we play long percentage for this season so far was 16.45. And then in this game, we played 22% of our passes long. So it's a good 6% increase from the other 5-6 games so far, 5 games, sorry. So yeah, we definitely did go longer in this one than we have done so far this season. And from the top of my head, I believe we was on about 9 to 10% last season. So we've already increased from last season, which is to be expected, especially when we have a player like Calvert-Lewin who is so good at taking down these aerial balls and challenging for the battles as well. So that's the main change.
Sorry to just interject slightly. How much has Calvert-Lewin changed our lives from, I'm not knocking him too much, a little bit, only a little bit, I promise, Joel Piroux, because it's night and day, and he's not even that much taller than Piroux, but it's just, he is so much better in those situations, isn't he?
Yeah, the way he used his body that is king. He is a proper centre forward. Proper centre forward. I'm sorry, I'm trying to do Dan's proper Yorkshire voice there, Yorkshire Dar voice. But yeah, he's a proper centre forward. He battles all day, runs all day. Will make these centre backs' lives a misery, and he's just an absolute outlet. Not just when you want him to challenge for an aerial ball. He can also run beyond as well. Like there's quite a few moments where we're just flinging the ball into the channel beyond their defender, and then he's so quick he can catch up to it, and then
sometimes right areas at one point.
Even though he isn't the first one to the ball, sometimes he forces a throw in, and then we're all the way up the pitch from nowhere. So these sort of little things is what the difference makes with a centre forward who can properly use his body. Don't want to nick Joel Piroux, because again, he has a lot of good strengths, and he was very valuable last season. He's the best finisher of the club. He's probably one of the most technical forwards we've got. However, we just can't start him at this point in the Premier League because even the least physical side in the league still has players who can make things physical and make it difficult, especially in the defence areas where pros can be operating. So you just, unfortunately, I can't see where he's going to be starting games coming forward at all.
No, I think it'll take an injury crisis now. Like, clearly, Metcha's ahead of him as well. So,
Yep.
yeah, it's difficult. Yeah, this long ball stuff is really interesting. Your model that you've got, I don't know what data you used from what website. I've got a slightly different set of numbers here, but it still illustrates the point really well. It's from The Athletic, this. Obviously, some sites will have slightly different kind of understanding of what is a long ball, what's a mid-range ball, whatever. So The Athletic have it as we had 6.8% of our passes last season were long in the Championship. Only 6.8%. And this season in the Premier League, before this game against Bournemouth, it's probably gone up a bit now. It will have gone up a bit now. 10.8%, which is a 4% increase, which is quite stark. It's quite stark because it is the largest increase of any team on the list from last season's data. Obviously, that includes some Premier League teams into the next season in the Premier League. But in terms of the overall league, long balls have gone up across the board pretty much. There's only a couple of teams have gone down slightly, but most teams have gone up, and Leeds have gone up by the most. Burnley, the second most. They've gone up 3.6 or 3.4%, and we've gone 3.4, and we've gone up 4%. So it's a big increase. So yeah, it's certainly something that we're looking to do. I was speaking to you earlier about this, and like there was one in particular that we were doing pretty often, which was Bogle would launch the ball up to Calvert-Lewin. He'd follow his pass by running up the flank 30, 40 yards. And Brendan Aronson would be the one that would tuck in a bit, and hopefully either Calvert-Lewin would win it or the defender wouldn't win it cleanly, and Aronson was there to pick it up. And then you had Bogle overlapping him down the right. Didn't always play it to him, but at least it was something that we were repeatedly doing that we are able to do in the future, and we're probably going to do quite a lot of. It doesn't matter who the winger is. I think it'll just be something we do. So yeah, I think this is something that's effective. I think it's something that helps us get out, like you say. And it's just player profiles. It's Farke being smart with what he's got, the hand he's been dealt. You can't do that when you've got Pirro as the striker. He might be the best finisher at the club. And you've got people saying on Twitter, people asking the question, essentially like, oh, but would Pirro taken at least one of the three chances Calvert-Lewin had, maybe even more? And I'm like, yeah, maybe, but like the point is, do we even get these chances?
Would he have been there as well?
Exactly.
These chances aren't the area where he goes to. He sits a little bit further back in the box.
That's exactly what I was getting at, yeah, because it's just not his game. So you can say that all you like, but he doesn't get into those positions. So maybe on one of them he might have, but not all of those. Maybe the one that Calvert-Lewin stretched for, perhaps he might have got to, but like that's it. And even then, that was probably Calvert-Lewin's best shot of the three. That was the one that was the most unlucky. So it's like, whatever, man. Calvert-Lewin's definitely the guy. I think if you're talking about Big Joel anymore, then it's a bit nonsense, in my opinion. I don't mean to offend anyone. I just don't really see the point. There's no credence and reason really why you would bring him up at this stage. Clearly he is third in line. You could argue, and I'm going to go a bit dark here and say maybe Harry Gray should even be above Pirro in the pecking order. But no, in all honesty and seriousness, it's Calvert-Lewin and it's Metcha, and if one of them's injured, which will happen at some point, the other one will play, and it gives us that platform that we need. It gives us a little bit more. I think Calvert-Lewin is the 9, and he is the better of the two, and I think he's shown it now. He's clearly looking a bit sharper. I don't know about you, like already, and I'm not on about his finishing, I'm just on about his general play. He looks even better than he did in the first couple of appearances that he made. Like, this was definitely his best all-round performance. Honestly, so good in terms of just getting his elbows into people and being rough. So yeah, it gives us the opportunity to go long, as we said, and like Marta's data and my data suggest, we're doing that a heck of a lot more than we were last season in the Championship. So let's break down the goals, shall we, from a defensive perspective, because we talked about a lot of positive things here about us in an attacking sense. But Martin, like we talked on the preview, that Bournemouth are quite a small team. They have some physicality, but this isn't a huge side. They've lost a lot of their height actually through the summer, and now they're a little bit smaller than they were. And yet they've scored a really annoying set piece, the second one. And, most of their better chances came from set pieces in general. There were balls that were kind of not dealt with all the time, and then it would fall to someone, whatever. So let's break down the actual goals, but that has to be a bit frustrating, doesn't it? And yeah, I guess I'll start with the Semenyo one because that's where to start. And like, it hurts me to be a bit frustrated at Stack. I think it is a bit soft, but I've also seen an angle of it slow down, and he definitely does push a little bit into the attacking player. So I'm understanding completely of why that was given as a free kick. But then let's break down the actual free kick, shall we? Because that's poor in itself, giving a free kick away in that area. But who are you blaming most for the lack thereof of draft excluder or Wall not doing its job or whatever?
I think it's got to be on Darlow because he's the one who sets up the wall, and I think that he'd set up the Aronson as a draft excluder to cover the corner of the goal. And for me personally, I think low into the corner is probably an easier chance for a goalkeeper to save than driven hard, like just at his side, like this one was. And I think he should have been a little bit more inside, so that he was covering more the centre, because most goalkeepers do struggle to get down quickly to shots which are fired down, like just to the side of them. It's hard to get down that quickly unless they quickly get a foot out, but most goalkeepers don't do that, especially not for free kicks. They'll look to dive. So I think it's that. I don't think you can't put any blame on Aronson. He's just lying there. He's been told where to lie down, and he's lying there. He's not even looking at what's happening with the free kick. He's just lying there with his back to it. So for me, the main one it would be just the organisation of the wall, which would fall to Darlow. The actual shot itself was really good and lots of power, hitting the place where he can't get to, but it should never have got through to him in the first place if the draft excluder was set up, because that's the whole purpose of it, is to stop players from going long. So yeah,
I have pretty much zero to add. I also agree. Darlow has to do better there. He's got the full sight of kind of where his wall is, where his draft excluder is, where the ball is, and where his goal is, more than anyone in that ground probably. So he has to be able to see where the ball might go, and it's just poor. I agree that Semenyo actually strikes it well, even though it's close to Darlow, and people might question that. Because as you say, it's really hard to get down to that, like being so close. He might have been slightly onside with the wall and blah, blah, blah. So I can kind of get that. But like the draft excluder is just poor, like placed, and it's not Aronson's fault as much as I'd like it to be. No, I'm joking. I'm totally joking. The second one then, Martin, feels like there's quite a few things here. I think there's more at play here. Tanaka. It might be a soft one. Again, slightly, but he dallies on the ball, doesn't make a decision, runs into some traffic, and then fouls the player. He'd only been on the pitch a few minutes, not great from him, and I hate to criticise him or Stack because they're two of my favourite players. And then the goal itself, like another few of our favourites, you could maybe point fingers at. Who are you pointing a finger at after the ball's kicked?
For me, Stroud should have been doing better with the aerial battle. I don't think there's anyone on the pitch there who should have been winning an aerial against him. He's generally really dominant, and he was dominant throughout this game. So
that's the annoying part.
Yeah. He didn't have a problem throughout the game of dealing with his aerial battle, and in this decisive moment, he wasn't there. He didn't really jump to his full capacity, in my opinion, but neither player did. He got over him and was able to get the ball, and then after it had been headed down towards Krupi, I think that a lot of people are saying Ampadu, but if you watch it, Ampadu's got two men over that side of him. I'm not sure who the other one was along with Krupi, but there was another guy just in front of him, between him and Krupi, and where it was. And for me, Jayden Bogle should have been covering that run. He was over that far side of the box, and he wasn't really doing anything. He was just watching the ball, and Krupi ran forward and he didn't go with him. So Ampadu's in a position where now he has to try to cover two players, and he tries to get his foot over to block the shot, but he's just too far away from him because he's covering the man that he's meant to be covering. So no one man can cover two men, even Ampadu, especially not from a set piece situation. So I'm not giving Ampadu any for this. Some people will, that's fine. Different opinions and all that, but for me it's on Bogle, and I don't usually criticise Bogle either. I love Bogle and Ampadu equally, so if I'm criticising Bogle, you got to believe it's for a good reason in my view.
It's all the all stats favourites, isn't it? It's Stack for the free kick, less so.
See, we can
Darlow,
criticise these
but
players. We can.
yes, we can, but it is. It's all the favourites. It's Stack, less so Darlow, but like those two for that goal, and then it's Tanaka for giving it away. It's Strout for not winning the aerial, and it's a bit of Ampadu and Bogle at the back post, depending on your view of it. So yeah, it's really annoying because they're definitely some of our absolute favourites at this podcast. It hurt me a lot. Yeah, I take your point. Maybe Ampadu needs to be screaming at Bogle and saying, pick one up. And, but I also understand that in that moment, he might have been a bit, a lot of them players might have thought Strout was just going to win that aerial, let's be honest, as he had most of the game. Yeah. Let's be real. He had an immense game in the air, apart from that moment, which is so annoying because it's the one decisive one. Senesi probably is their best player in the air, to be fair, probably. But Strout, like you say, he should be winning it against every single one of those Bournemouth players and didn't. And it's just really frustrating because he genuinely bullied Evan Nielsen for most of it. So that was annoying. I agree, and that's avoidable. That's really avoidable, and it feels like quite a few of the goals so far have been quite soft this season. There's not many that I'm like, yeah, fair enough. We've just been outdone there completely. Feels like a lot of it is just Leeds need to tighten up in certain aspects, and we didn't quite do that. We had another question that I wanted to go over quickly. Just quite a fun one, really. Well, it's not a fun one, but I think I just completely agree with it. I might even ask it to you. We had a guy on Blue Sky called Aladdin Sane, which is a great name. I noticed that every time we had pressure and the ball went out, players were calling to the fans to up the volume. Our 12th man, Helland Road. So not a question, but just a discussion point, perhaps. I have to say, I think that both the players and probably people inside the club have probably identified the fact that Elland Road needs to be somewhat of a fortress this season, and that you're probably needing the majority of your points to come at home. And so I think the players, probably more than usual, were doing this. I think it was pretty noticeable. They were geeing the fans up. They were, doing that thing where they raised their arms, yes, yes, yes. And I saw it today at Newcastle. They're the kind of grounds, Elland Road and St James's, that fans have probably needed a lot of the 12th man. And yeah, I think the club know how important Elland Road can be. We're unbeaten at home for over a year now. Mostly wins as well. It's not been many draws. So, it's clearly been something that's important, even in the Championship, even in the Premier League, it will be. And, we played Newcastle, Bournemouth and Everton, and we've not lost. That's quite good. Bournemouth and Newcastle in particular, that's pretty decent. So, yeah, I don't know if you have any thoughts on this, Martin, but I do think it's something we'll have identified this season. I don't think we want to get, it'd be great to get 20 points on our travel, but maybe we're only looking at 10 or 15 on the road if we can get enough at home.
Well, yeah, I absolutely do agree that Elland Road is going to be where we pick up most of our points. But I think it's been covered enough. I'm not sure if anyone saw the stats which was put out by the club or something to do with the club before. There was 7 stats to give us hope for winning this game against Bournemouth, and out of the 7 stats that was in this, 4 of them were related to this game being at home. One that our home form has been good last season, and another one that we are good against Bournemouth at home. Another one, the last time when we played Bournemouth, when it's at Elland Road, we came back and won. It's just we're aware. But yeah, it is definitely going to be a source of points for us this season, and we do need to make the most of that. It's the same for most clubs, but especially for us, we've got one of the few old school stadiums left which are playing in the Premier League, which generates a certain level of fear in opponents. So we absolutely do need to take advantage of that, yeah.
Yeah, that's why the players did what they did. But yeah, we'll end the first half of this podcast here.
Sorry to interrupt, just a quick one. If you're enjoying the video, be sure to like and subscribe to help us keep the content coming. And if you want even more, you can support us over on patreon.com/ASAW Patreon. You'll get bonus podcasts, exclusive articles, and access to our Discord community, all while helping us make more of the content you love. Thanks. Now let's get back to it.
Right, let's move on to the second half of the analysis, where we'll discuss some players and in performances a little bit more detail. We've also got a few more questions as well from people. Our lovely editor Paul with the first. He said, will the upsides of Dominic Calvert-Lewin outweigh his likely lower chance conversion rate over the season? I have an emphatic answer for this now. I probably was a little less sure about it maybe before he'd kicked the ball for us, and now I'm like, yeah, like he is clearly going to be a vital part of the season. I'm sure, Martin, that there will be an injury for Calvert-Lewin at some point, and he'll miss some time. I'm hoping it's not long. I'm hoping it's a matter of weeks, not months, at some stage. But I'm sure that will happen because he has formed for it over the last few years. But at the moment, like, you have to say that even with the misses, the overall package you get from Calvert-Lewin right now is far more, what would you call it, like, not just positive, but it's a net positive. It's big time and net positive that we're getting out of him in an attacking sense, even with the misses. Yeah.
100%. I'm not going to add anything more. He will absolutely be a big positive for us this season. And I do also think that there's every likelihood that he isn't as bad with finishing wise across the course of the season. I think his best season of finishing chances came when Everton were playing a bit more progressively. I forget which manager it was under.
Ancelotti.
Potentially Ancelotti, and that's where he had his best goal outlay. And he's played with Everton under a lot of managers who are the opposite of progressive. Now, I'm not saying that we've been the most progressive side this season, but I do think that we do at least still try to play with the ball. And we do still want to have possession of the ball, even when it sometimes doesn't happen against sides like this. And I think today was a better choice to sit off and not want to have the ball all the time and end up with less possession, because that suits against Bournemouth. But I do feel that the difference in chances that we'll create with the style that we look to play will maybe suit Calvert-Lewin more than what the sort of chances which he would get for Everton in the past few years. So who knows? Every chance he does finish a good couple of goals under his XG, but I'm not concerned about that. I said it when we first signed him, that it's the rest of what he brings to the squad which will make him be so good for us, and it's an underrated facet of which not a lot of strikers have what he has in this. And to get a striker who has his level of all-round play ability of a 9, along with being able to finish, you're talking an elite level 9. If you add finishing to Calvert-Lewin's game, he's in the England squad. There's no doubt in my mind to that if Calvert-Lewin was clinical, he'd have all the rest that you want from a number 9. So yeah, 100% he's going to be a positive for us this season.
Yeah, and like, there's obviously people saying, "Oh, but we, the whole Peru thing, like, we'll score more if he's in the or something or whatever." I don't care, but like, the way I see it, and I can't believe I need to say this on this podcast at this stage, and I think most of our listeners will know this, but like, you might have more of a chance of finishing a chance if someone like Peru's on the pitch, yes. But are you creating as many chances? Are you creating as many shots in total in the game? In my opinion, no. Let's just put some random numbers on this. With Peru, we might have 7 shots and 0.7 XG, and with Calvert-Lewin, we might have 12 shots and 1.2 XG, and I'd much rather have 1.2 XG and 12 shots because there's much more chance of us scoring from that. It's even with the knowledge that Peru's a better finisher. He makes the team better overall, and that's the important part here. And I do think it will matter most, even if he doesn't become, I agree with you, he probably will become a bit more clinical over the course of the season. But yeah. We also had a question from Tom Alderson, our good friend of the podcast and one of the members of the team. They're taking over this section, our lovely podcast friends. He said, do you think Farke's tendency to sit on Leeds, why is he sitting on Leeds? Is he that big? Is he that large? You can sit on Leeds.
Is he sat on Elland Road? Is he on in the rafters?
Part? Yeah. He used to stand a lot as well. He doesn't seem to be one that sits. That was Bielsa's thing. Anyway, his tendency to sit on Leeds with the subs he makes and sitting off does invite the goals we concede. He said, do you think that his tendency to do that does that?
Well, for one, I don't think we sat off in this game. That's my first thing, and I've got screenshots to share to show what I mean. So un momento while I share my screen.
So if you're listening on podcasts, I'm so sorry you won't be able to see any of this segment.
Nope.
But if you're listening on YouTube and you're watching us, then you'll be able to see what Martin's about to do. You might want to skip this if you are listening. Carry on, Martin.
But yeah, so I paid attention to the amount of numbers we were committing forward after we scored, because it seems to be the prevailing factor that we'd just sat back as soon as we went ahead and just didn't attempt to score at all. And that just really wasn't the case. Like here, 77th minute, we've got 6 men in and around their box. Here, in the 84th minute, again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 players in their half. And then the final one, 81st minute again, plenty of players in and around their box. When it actually got to the players entering the box, there was maybe one less player entering the box than before we scored. So before we were committing maybe 5, sometimes 6 bodies in and around the box, and it was usually 4 who were inside the box when it was after the goal. So we were still committing bodies forward, and we were still trying to score, and we even had chances to score. Harrison had a great chance not long after we scored. I think maybe about 5-10 minutes after we scored. Lovely strike from him. In fact, it must have been longer than that because Harrison didn't come on until mid-60s, so maybe about 15 minutes after we scored then. But yeah, we were still committing players forward, especially usually when Bournemouth had been forward, then we would get forward in transition and try to make the ball stick and try to take the sting out of the game. But I'll stop sharing this now so we can get this back to being big. But you see what I mean with those images there, that we were still committing bodies forward. So it's not like we were doing like most teams would do and just have 10 men behind the ball and we're happy with that. That wasn't the case. We were actually trying to get a third goal, in my opinion, and we were unlucky not to do so. There were a few other moments which really stuck out late on in the game. I think I watched back the final 15-20 minutes about twice over because I kept rewinding it and looking at different things because I'm such a massive nerd. But yeah, we absolutely didn't do that. But back to what Toldo was saying, that it would definitely be a concern if we did consistently sit back when we do have leads. I do think some of that was happening against Fulham. I think that was away from home, so it's a bit of a different story. We were trying to protect the draw there and not wanting to lose even that 1 point. But in this one, we weren't looking to do that. I think we were actively trying to score a third. But yeah, if we do continue to do that, especially away from home, then it could provoke late goals from opponents because teams can score for a full 90 minutes. In this league, you can't switch off for a second, as we've seen.
Yeah, I want to talk about subs a bit more then. Because you've answered Toldo's question. Because I didn't really particularly love what I saw here. Because I don't really understand playing Tanaka on the right. Not really sure about that. I understand why he's a pretty intense player off the ball. I understand why he'll give a little bit of what Aronson brings in that aspect, but he didn't cover himself in glory on the set piece that he gave away, for example. I just didn't think it was a role that really suited him. You want him in the middle of the pitch, really, like moving the ball around, dictating the tempo a little bit more, maybe getting our foot on it and taking the sting out of the game. And it didn't work what he did, I don't think. I didn't understand the Calvert-Lewin sub at the time. I think that was really weird because you've got a defensive set piece. He's a good defensive set piece, player for us because he's still going to attack the ball really well and get rid of it. Took him off of Mecha, who's not bad in that respect, but it just didn't make sense. To me, you could do it after, or you could do it way before. You could do it like 5-10 minutes earlier. It just didn't really make much sense to me. And then also the other one is the one that he didn't do, and we're going to talk about him in a second, which is Jacobiol, because as much as you're probably right, and I haven't fully watched back that period because I was a little bit annoyed at the end, so I turned off and I didn't want to watch their onslaught. There was a bit of an onslaught at the very, very end. That last maybe extra time plus about 5 minutes before it certainly was like that. And if that's the case, and we're... Go on.
So I just want to say it wasn't that bad at all on watch back. If you watch all the way to the end, I've watched it loads, and it really wasn't. We looked so comfortable when those subs were made. I'm not saying that there was. I felt zero pressure at all, and then that free kick happened, and then they scored. It was honestly, it felt like it when I was watching it live as well. But on the rewatch, 100%, we were not under as much pressure as what it said. It was back and forth.
You feel tense.
Yes, 100%, and I felt it live as well. But on the rewatch, it was back and forth. We had chances to go forward, so did they. They had a bit more of the ball in the final 15-20 minutes, but it wasn't like they were bombarding our goal with chance after chance after chance. They weren't able to get into our box, And then the only way they were was with a free kick. But yeah, continue with what you're saying.
Well, it does debunk my point a little bit, but at the same time, I still think there's some like value to just if we are on a lead, whether we're trying to attack or defend, whatever it might be, whatever it is, I don't understand why we don't put Jacob on the pitch. I don't understand why he's not made a league appearance for us yet. I understand why we've not taken Rodon and Strauch out as a pairing, but there is scope for in games either to end games or even to start some games to play a back three, and he hasn't sacrificed a forward or midfield player to put him in either again from the start or at the end of the game. And I don't really understand why not, especially with the end of games. I don't really understand why you wouldn't put him in the team. There'll be people listening that are going, why do we even sign him? Like, he's useless, or he's not good enough, or he's clearly not as good as Rodon and Strauch, whatever it might be. And I'm telling you now that he will be considered the best centre-back at the club at some point. I don't know when it'll be, but he will be considered that. And so I don't really understand. He's also quite comfortably the best at defending the box and quite comfortably the best at defending set pieces. That isn't to say that Rodon and Strauch and Calvert-Lewin and Stack aren't all really, really good players in the air for us in defensive areas, because they are. But he is so exceptional at getting his head onto things. His head is just a magnet for the ball. If you thought that was Rodon in the Championship, that is Beale in the Premier League, or in Serie A, should I say, when he was at Udinese. So I don't really understand why we aren't more open to that idea. I don't know if you have any thoughts on this, Martin, or like if you think it's because Farke doesn't want to sacrifice a midfielder or doesn't want to sacrifice a forward player just in case we get to break, or doesn't want a midfielder sacrifice because he wants to keep us kind of compact in the middle of the pitch. I don't know what it is, but it really annoys me. And I'll ask you it through Zach, because he had a question for us as well. He said, at what point should Beale get a go? And I'm saying, Zach, he should be getting a go late in games, in my opinion, unless Martin tells me exactly why we aren't sacrificing a midfielder or forward.
Well, I do think that we should be seeing Yaka coming on more in these sorts of situations. I can kind of understand why he didn't in this, because we were getting moments to get forward and try to hit on the break. And I think if we would have had to sacrifice one of our midfielders for that, to bring him in and go back free. It's either that or you take off one of the two centre-backs and bring in Yaka and just use the same shape, but just bring on someone that's a bit fresher, a bit better at challenging for aerial duels. And like if he was in the place of Strauch for that aerial and the free kick, he could have cleared that. Not saying he would have done, but it's all guesswork here, but it is a good possibility that would have happened. I do want to see more of Beale, but also I just want to say how incredibly happy I am with where Strauch and Rodon have started so far this season. I think 100%. They've both been excellent, and I don't think there's very many better centre-backs in the bottom 5-6 clubs in this league than they are. They're very good at what they do, both on the ball and off it. But I just really want to see Yaka, because I know he will level up our back line in box defending. He'll be heading balls out all day long. He'll be the tallest outside of goalkeeper, so one of the tallest outfield player, or maybe he's Stack just a little bit taller than him, maybe slightly.
Rodon is still a teeny bit taller, but it's not by much.
I thought he's taller than Rodon, and Rodon's 6'2", isn't he?
No, Rodon's 6'4".
Is he? He doesn't look. He doesn't look it to me.
Keep talking. I'll look on transfer.
But anyway, yeah. The point of this was that I do want to see more of Yaka, and I think it would be a good opportunity against Spurs. That for me would be a great time to whip out the back three in this one. Spurs under Frank do not do well when they have to break down a solid box, and if you do that, bring in the back three, give Goodmanson and Bogle a bit more room to roam forward, then that could work really nicely, in my opinion. So yeah, that is where I would like to see it in response to Zach's question. But yeah, did you find out anything on the heights?
Yeah, so the three goalkeepers are obviously three of our tallest players, Perry, Meslier and Darlow, but then it's Stack, Rodon, Bornau and Beale are the fourth tallest, and Strauch, they're the five tallest. But even despite the height thing, he had won the best aerial win rates across all of Europe in the top 5 leagues for the past few seasons. Despite him not being the tallest at the club, that doesn't matter. Height isn't everything when it comes to winning aerial battles.
So you want your best aerial defender sometimes. Maybe Bournemouth, they don't have too many big aerial threats, so you can understand why he wouldn't be brought in for this one. But for against Spurs, who do have some big defenders in there who can attack the box really well, and they have set piece coaches as well, I believe, you want to have your best box defenders from set pieces in this one. So Spurs would be my go-to for bringing him in.
Yeah, I'd maybe say, I mean, we're going right into preview stuff now, so I'll stop after this bit, but like maybe a 5-3-2 might make sense and just play all three midfielders still and play Okafor with Calvert-Lewin and have the same kind of strategy of like hit Calvert-Lewin and either go for Okafor for flick-ons or Okafor drops the deeper just where Aronson was and picks up the ball from whatever Calvert-Lewin does in a slightly deeper role and then waits for other players to get up the pitch. Either way, that could be something we do, but I don't think he will do it. But yeah, like Zach says, he feels bad for him and he thinks that he'd make us a stronger side, but it's very harsh to drop Rodon on Strauch. And I just want to reiterate what you said about them too. I personally think that this was the first time that I would definitively say that Rodon was better than Strauch in a game. I think the other games I would actually have leaned to Strauch or it was pretty even. But either way, they've still both been really decent to start the season, and I can see why they haven't been dropped. And it's a real shame because if he hadn't been suspended on that first game, I think he'd have played every game to this point. I think he would have started from the Everton game onwards, but he had his suspension and Strauch and Rodon started with a clean sheet, and that's been the case since. The opportunity to do it was probably after the Arsenal game, but he didn't do it then either. He changed other things. Anyway, not the point. And as Alfie said, Rodon was excellent today. Strauch grew into this, but it was off day on the whole, and I agree with you, Alfie. I think we're going to talk about players now, and we'll maybe talk about who struggled then first. I don't think there were loads. I do think Strauch wasn't quite as sexy on the ball as he can be, and that was a bit of a shame. But he's a good player in terms of winning his battles. And I think there was a few other players that were a bit sloppy. But my word, there were some good performers as well. But yeah, there weren't too many to go at. Like, I think I will say I agree with what everyone's been saying online about Aronson in terms of he was better than usual. But I don't think that he was like special. And I think that we have a lower bar with him because I think that there is like, if Okafor had played as Aronson did, I think people wouldn't be as forgiving. And I think that people are a bit more accepting of Aronson's level. So they're like, oh, he was quite good today. He worked hard. Yeah, that should be a prerequisite anyway. Like that should be something that you just expect. So who else is there really? Like, I don't think Bogle had his best game in a Leeds shirt. I don't think it was his best game overall this season, but he was still pretty solid. Like, I'm really struggling to find players that I didn't think were great. Like, I think Stack has been the same as he has in other games where off the ball I've been like loving him and I think he gives us everything we need him to, but on the ball there's maybe some moments of like not being quite at it. And again, I can kind of understand why he wasn't because we were playing Bournemouth. So yeah, I don't know if there's anything else you picked up on that wasn't as good as you wanted, Martin. But yeah, there you go.
I don't think there was anyone really who struggled in this one. I can agree with 100% what you're saying on Aronson. Yes, he did have a reasonably good game, but I've had people going on that is the best game we've seen of him in the Leeds shirt and all this sort of stuff, and that's a really low bar. He has some nice moments, but it's not like he was terrorising them all the time. Yes, he worked hard, but we always expect that from him. That's just there. And he didn't work any harder than any of the other forward players, in my opinion. Okafor put in a good shift out of possession as well. And so did definitely Calvert-Lewin. There's one thing I just want to pick up on that. If you used to get these FOT mob ratings and all this, they do my head in. Like, try to guess who our lowest performing outfield player was in this one per FOT mob. Don't look at it. You might have it open. Don't look at it.
No, I've already looked. I always look at that and sofa score. I have a look at, and I saw both. And yeah, our lowest rated outfield player for people that don't know was Gabriel Goodmanson, which is mental to me because I think we're going to do man of the match in a second.
He was superb in this one.
Yeah.
He was superb in this one, and I just don't know how they bring up these rankings at all. But he was excellent in this one. He did a good job out of possession, and I just want to defend Bogle a bit because I thought he had a really good game. I thought he was really good, especially off the ball. He was picking up a lot of defensive actions. He had the joint most tackles and interceptions for us. joint most with Longstaff with 7 each. Hello, Kitty. And he also had the joint most progressive carries as well. So he was putting up numbers and doing what we know him to do best. So I liked Bogle's game in this one. But if I had to say my man of the match, I don't think I can look beyond Sean Longstaff, if I'm totally honest. Goal and an assist. And he even also set up Calvert-Lewin's initial chance in the first minute.
He did. Yeah,
it was a lovely pass that as well. He just said that really nicely played, just like chipped ball through. But so yeah, he had a fantastic game and he showed what he can offer. Yeah, he isn't going to be offering sexy passes all the time. He isn't going to be scoring goals all the time. But he did 2 nice things as well as his usual high levels of off the ball work. So yeah, it's definitely Longstaff, but close by to him, Calvert-Lewin was excellent despite him missing those chances. So he just gets up the pitch, and that's invaluable. And yeah, Stack was all right, nothing bad, nothing great, just plugged away, did what he needs to do off the ball, connected attacks quite well going forward as well. And yeah, there was getting some good relationships going on both sides of the pitch here. Yeah. And I liked a few moments what Okafor brought as well. He had a really nice little back heel pass, which he did at one point. I was like, that's just naughty. And some nice driving runs as well. But yeah, I think he was picking his moments more. I think maybe Fark's words in the press conference might have got through to him a bit about not always looking to go past the player, sometimes passing backwards or find a pass rather than trying to drive forward. So yeah, there's quite a lot to like in this game. And I don't think anyone struggled massively. Just a few moments here and there where like we've already covered for the goals, but largely most players performed really well today on Saturday.
You do today a lot. You say it a lot. I never correct you. It's fine. I have so little to add here, so I'm going to keep this quite short. My 3 main contenders for man of the match were probably Goodmanson, Calvert-Lewin, and obviously Sean Longstaff. I thought Calvert-Lewin was fantastic. Where are you going? Sorry, my cat's on the desk. So yeah, those were the 3. I thought, Goodmanson was... Please don't knock that over. There you go. Yeah, Goodmanson was great. I don't understand why his FOTMO rating was as low as it was. I can't really understand that unless it's because, you drive up the pitch, you give the ball away, but we've got territory, and that's considered a bad thing on these stupid websites. I don't know.
I think it could be down to duels. I think that could be it. That's why Bogle had a higher rating. I'm just looking at the duels here. This is on FBref. I haven't looked at this version on FOTMob, but Bogle won 5 out of 6 of his dribble duels. So when players tried to dribble the ball past him, he won 5 out of 6 times. And with Goodmanson, he only won 1 out of 2. So only a 50% success rate. So that could have impacted it. But yeah, I don't understand it either. Goodmanson had a good game, but stats will be stats, and they don't always tell you everything about a player's game.
Yeah. I really hope people do watch on YouTube, because it's probably much more entertaining given what's happening right now. Probably is that then. But he gained us territory. He carried the ball really well. He's been arguably our most consistent player this season so far. Like, even against Arsenal, there were a few nice moments, and that was our worst game across the board. So he's been great. I still think Stack's probably had higher quality games of our signings, like in terms of his very, very best, like the Everton one and like the Wolves one, but still. And then obviously Longstaff had a fantastic game, as we said. So yeah, and the stat from Johnny Cooper on Longstaff probably was what ended up nudging me to him over the other 2, because Calvert-Lewin, as we said, in terms of holding the ball, in terms of his execution of his role, is just doing everything that you want of him. But Longstaff stats from Johnny Cooper were that he's the first Leeds player in Opta's history on their database that has created 7 chances and won 10 duels in a league game, and he also covered over 12 kilometres per game so far as well. 12 kilometres, by the way, is really, really high in a Premier League game. I think you normally get around 10, 11 for most players. 12 is very good. So he's done that in every single game. You know what you're getting? You're getting an engine, you're getting a tenacious player, you're getting someone with a lot of intensity. And like we said, he can score a few goals. I think he sliced his shot a little bit, but I think he might have slightly meant... I think he slightly meant to. I think he wanted to cut across the ball, and it actually ended up being perfect. And it was a really, really good goal. Probably still not our best goal this season, probably the second best after Stack, but outstanding stuff. So I'll give it to him, which means actually, like, I've been totaling up who I've given man of the match to so far. And I think it's 2-2-2 across the board. I think I've given 2 to Goodmanson, 2 to Longstaff, and 2 to Stack. So 3 new signings, all doing really well. Probably our 3 best signings so far that we've seen as well. Yep. Hopefully more Calvert-Lewin, his name more involved in that conversation at some point. That would be very nice. And Jakobiel, as we mentioned. Anyway, any closing thoughts before we go?
No, but other than just want to say just how happy I am with how well we're competing so far. It's a very strong start to the season. Yeah, we could have picked up 3 points here, but I think for me in this early stage, performances are more what I'm looking for than anything. And as long as we are competing with teams, I think throughout the season we will win enough points to keep us up. In my opinion, it's very early doors to say that, and lots of football left to play. But I'm very buoyed by the way we are playing so far, and that it bodes well for us going forward.
Yeah, it certainly does. Like, I think 3 of the games went exactly as they should have, and 3 of the games have been either for or against us, as I mentioned before. I think you could argue that we got 2 points more against Everton. I don't think that. I think we probably got the right result, and I think you could argue that we could be 3 points better off from these last 2 games. 2 points extra against Bournemouth and 1 point extra against Fulham, but it's still really broadly positive, as you say. And like both us and Sunderland have clearly started the season really, really, really well in terms of our points total. It's one of the best in recent memory for promoted teams. I think it's the best since 2017-18 after 6 games, and Burnley have only got 4 of those, so they've not pulled their weight very well so far. So yeah, I totally agree. I echo everything you say, and we'll close here, I think. So don't forget to like and subscribe on YouTube if you're listening. Hello, I hope you've enjoyed seeing my cat. It really does help us out. It really helps her out. I can feed her. You don't want it to go hungry. I'll guilt trip you all. You don't want it to go hungry. But yeah, there's not much else to say other than subscribe and also leave a review. And on Patreon, you can find us at patreon.com/ASAW, as Hosty has probably told you at some point during this podcast. Please do give us a check out, because we've got a couple more international breaks coming up, and it'd be great to have you, because we'll definitely be doing some bonus stuff on there, and it won't be on the main feed. So that's all that we have time for tonight. We'll be back to preview Thomas Frank's Tottenham, who come to it is Ellen Road, isn't it? Again, another one at Ellen Road, 12:30 on TNT Sports.
Oof,
fabulous. Yeah, not one of those early bloody kickoffs that we had last season that were cursed. I'm sure I'll bring that up on the preview. But yeah, we're trying for a guest at the moment, but we might not have one for the first time. We'll see. If we don't, I'm sorry. We've done well so far to get 6. To be really honest, we could ask John again, but I don't want to constantly ask him. But he's definitely done a lot of Tottenham watching. But yeah, if we don't, it'll be fine. We'll be all right, whoever is on that one. And all that's left for me to say is thank you as ever, Martin. It's you and me again.
Thank you as well, Adam.
More of us too. Hopefully less of us too soon, and some other faces. I know people are just quite busy at the moment, staring at Pascal Strauch and all that. And yeah, it's it's the sort of thing all stats aren't we do, isn't it? But yeah, thank you very much, dear listeners, as well. I hope you enjoy the rest of your week. We are recording this on Sunday, so hopefully it's with you on Monday. And yeah, ride the high through it and into the weekend when we play Tottenham. Goodbye.